Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create.
I shared this with you before about how I fumbled recently, and I didn't even know I'd fumbled until after I was done wrapping work with the client. And the client was actually Victoria P. Mitchell, who stopped by in episode 80. And during our last session, she said, I got it. I finally got it. I finally get your storytelling process and why you had me build my talk this way. And I was like, wait, what? Like she just got it now at the end? And then I told her the story about Mrs. Jackson that I shared with you back in episode 2, how Mrs. Jackson never gave us a script for our elementary school plays, but instead gave us a solid framework with a beginning and an end point for each scene. Then she invited us to pour ourselves and all of our creativity into our characters so that we could create our own dialogue and thereby the entire script. And it was the perfect blend of structure and flow, of hard walls and soft landing for creativity. It informs how I move through life and how I work with my clients. It informs my own approach, not just for helping people craft their stories, but how I put them in the position where they can go on to do it better and on their own without me. But I didn't tell Victoria the story about Mrs. Jackson and how this informs my work until the very end when her words, I finally got it, prompted me to do it. And when I was done, I was like, oh, oops, I probably should have told you this story before from the beginning. It would have helped you out. We burst out laughing and, it was like, and the whole thing was hilarious, because the storytelling coach forgot to tell a story, right? But it left me with this powerful reminder of just how important and really non-negotiable storytelling is for all of us in our work, because sharing that story helped to connect a lot of dots for her and for me. And it's going to help connect a lot of dots for you and make a lot of connections for you in your life and in your work. So today I want you to learn more about just how helpful storytelling can be in all aspects of your work if you let it, and really for us to dig into why. Now, if you listen to even one other episode of Reframe to Create, you've heard me talk about creating and how important it is for you to get to the meat of your real work in life, which is creating, because creating is your real work. I've made this clear, and by now you know that your work is, your real work is not your job or your career, it's what you create. And you know that here at Reframe to Create, creating is non-negotiable. But in episode 73, I also shared how that's not enough. It's not enough to just create with your gifts. Ownership is also very important. Ownership is non-negotiable. That is owning what you create. It's of critical importance. I mean, what's the point of creating things or experiences with your gifts that you don't own? Things that other people have their name stamped all over and you have no ability to leverage it for other work that you want to do, or even to monetize it if you ever wanted to do it. So this is not going to do. This won't work. And I talk about this and why it's so critical in that episode. Ownership is non-negotiable. Well, that's not it. It's not over. There are actually 3 pillars that make up the how of you getting paid to be you. You've got to, 1, yes, create with your gifts. Then 2, own what you create. And 3, tell powerful stories about what you create. The storytelling piece is also non-negotiable. So for you, this means that you've got to step into this area of flexing and developing your storytelling skills. It's non-negotiable for helping you to get paid to be you and driving you forward in your work and helping you to make the most important contribution that you're here to make. And that's because of these 3 important things about storytelling and stories. 1, the stories that we tell ourselves are the most powerful stories. You're never not telling a story. Sometimes you're recounting a story of what happened to you. Sometimes it's of what you hope or fear will happen. Sometimes it's a telling of what is happening right now. Whatever it is, you're never not telling a story. In fact, even right now, you have a story. You're telling a story about you and storytelling and about your ability to tell stories. Because stories are how we make sense. They're how we make meaning out of the seemingly random facts of our lives. And when you're telling a story about you and storytelling, you're making it mean something. And that meaning, which is the underlying narrative, the script, the message, is what tells you if you can or can't do something. So you see, storytelling isn't just this thing, this product you wrap up and deliver to an audience. Well, it can be that, but it's not just that. It's most powerful because of what it can do inside of you. I've seen it so many times with leaders and other professionals I've worked with to help them develop their talks, their presentations, and their stories. When it comes to the act of unearthing and recrafting your stories, something special happens every time. They experience a transformation. They don't just share their story. They get a part of themselves back in the process. And not the same version of themselves either. They get a reframe on themselves. And as you know, I always say, you can only go as far as who you are. And that's what getting into the practice of storytelling can do for you. It can help you get a reframe so that you can be and experience yourself differently, so that you can not just be, but do different and go different places than you've been before. Annette Simmons, the author of Story Factor, says it best when she says, "The stories we tell become the maps we use to chart our lives." So I hope you see how critical storytelling is for you and why getting your arms around it is non-negotiable, because it's all around you and in you, always. You can't get away from it, but you can be more intentional about it. You must be more intentional about it. 2, stories are how you connect with, influence, and drive action and change in the world around you. Although Annette Simmons really solidifies this thinking in her book, Story Factor, I've also seen it with my own 2 eyes, so I know it's not just a theory. When I work with leaders to develop their stories, they're always able to make a connection with their listeners because of it. People always come to them afterwards and share how they felt so connected to their story because it triggered something in them about their own stories. Not only that, they feel like they got to know the leader better, understand them better, and feel more connected to them and their vision. And that connection often opens the doors for those leaders to be more influential with their listeners. They're more able to be heard and listened to in other places and spaces. It opens up doors for them that it might not have opened for them before. They start to have more influence. And when it comes time to advance some sort of change or transformation, and when it's time to invite people to action, they're able to cash in on that influence that was built from the connection that they built through their stories. Because their teams and others feel a deeper sense of trust with them because they're connected to their story, and that connection builds that influence and makes it easier to invite people to action. Action becomes easier and more possible. This is a triple punch that storytelling can deliver: connection, influence, and action. And it's not just available to leaders, it's available to anyone who will step into the arena of storytelling. It's open to you, my creating maven. As you continue to create with your gifts, storytelling will be the powerful partner and differentiator you need. As you tell powerful stories about yourself and about those who you serve and about the things and experiences you create to serve them with, those who hear your stories will feel connected to you. You'll also have influence with them, and you'll be able to invite them to take action by being in partnership with you, whether that partnership is enjoying what you create with your gifts in paid or free service. Whichever way, storytelling will help you. And 3, storytelling helps you shape and control your brand. I've had a few guests come on who've spoken about the importance of your personal brand in your work and the ways you need to invest in it. Most recently, Katie Anderson in episode 82, but also Diane Diaz, who talked about the why and how of building a powerful personal brand in episode 64, or Claire Harvey, who talked about the visual asset strategy to level up your personal brand in 66. And Salida Roberts came on in episode 74 and blew our minds, right, about the story your style tells about your work. And the thing is that whatever you use to contribute to the creation and shaping of your personal brand, whether it's images, your clothes, or most importantly, what you create, what you're really doing with all of these is you're telling a story. And people love stories. They are powerful and digestible. They are the connective tissue of all relationships. Stories are our windows into other people's lives and their windows into ours. Telling and sharing stories about yourself and about what you create is the most direct and powerful way to shape your brand. And you can share these stories live in an interview or in any other conversation, in writing, through podcasts, on social media, so many different ways. Over time, your brand will start to take shape around the shape of the stories you choose to tell about what you create. Storytelling is non-negotiable. I hope hearing these 3 reasons has helped you see why storytelling is such an important skill for you to develop for yourself. If you want to be paid to be you, you'll want to connect and be connected to others. You'll want to have influence and be able to invite others to action. And that action will be for your people to partner with you or to buy what you offer from what you create with your gifts. Storytelling helps us understand who you are and what you create better. It's got that know, like, trust factor built into it. And it's not just about one story either. It's about being more comfortable as a storyteller. The best storytellers and the most excellent in whatever field they work in are also exemplary at storytelling. Think of any category. Think leaders of companies. Everyone always talks about Steve Jobs, right? But it's not just because he was a tech guy at a tech company doing tech things. He was a great storyteller. And think of others like Richard Branson, Michelle Obama, Howard Schultz, Nate Silver, comedians. Think of Dave Chappelle. Why is he a standout comedian amongst other comedians? It's because he's essentially a storyteller. And sometimes you can get sucked into things and not know why you're sucked in. I bet you it's because there was a story on the other end, a really powerful story told by a really good storyteller. And I know all about this because I get sucked into YouTube shorts. And one of my favorite people to watch is Jamie Foxx. Not just him in a movie role or listening to him sing, but the shorts where he is telling stories actually about other celebrities and moments in his life. And he's just absolutely captivating. He does great impressions and you just feel like you're there in the moment with him. And this storytelling ability makes him even more of a standout artist in his field. We are attracted to what he's doing, and we're attracted to what people are doing and creating even more when you tack on them being great storytellers. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying by bringing these people up. I'm not saying you have to be them. Don't freak out. What I'm saying is you've got to dip your toe into the storytelling water if you're standing on the sidelines. And if your feet are already in it, great. Keep going. Dip full immersion style. Just start wrapping your arms around this because even a little foray into this pool has so much to give you, so much more than what you have right now. So imagine yourself in your next job interview or at a networking event where you're just being introduced to someone who's doing some really interesting stuff and things that you might want to get your hands into as well. Or think about you needing to make a pitch of some sort to a potential client. Having just a little bit of a storytelling skill in your back pocket is going to make those conversations soar as you make powerful connections and build influence. This is how to get paid to be you. Create, own, and storytell. So let's dip our toes in, shall we? Here's what I'd like you to try on for size. Think back about one of your earliest memories of you creating something. Where are you? When was it? Who else was there? What were you creating? And how did you feel after you created it? What did you do with it? And after thinking through this and going to that moment, I want you to share this story with your accountability partner. Set a timer for no more than 2 minutes, no more than 2, and just share your story with them and see how it feels to do that. get your toes wet and into this practice of sharing and telling your stories. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to show you how to build your own story bank so that we're going to go even deeper into this work and practice of finding and unearthing and reshaping your powerful stories. See you soon, Creating Maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?